Imagine this. You are standing on a dusty plain. The sun is beating down. In the distance, a city rises from the earth, unlike anything you have ever seen. This is Persepolis, the ceremonial heart of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. Carved reliefs of kings and warriors line the grand staircases. The grand staircase of the Apadana. Intricate carvings everywhere. Immense columns, soaring towards the sky. Topped with the heads of bulls. Topped with the heads of griffins. People from every corner of the known world are here. Medes in their round hats. Scythians in their pointed caps. Ethiopians with gifts of ivory. This wasn't just a city, it was a statement. Power. Unity. A new kind of world order. Founded in the 6th century BC by Cyrus the Great, it grew to become the largest empire the world had ever known. It stretched from the Balkans in Europe to the Indus Valley in India. It encompassed lands that are today part of more than 30 different countries. Think about that for a moment. This single political entity controlled a vast swath of the ancient world. It was a superpower in every sense of the word. Prepare to have your view of the ancient world turned completely upside down. At its peak around 500 BC, it governed an estimated 44% of the world's population. That is staggering. No other empire before or since matched that. It united dozens of peoples, languages, and cultures. From the Aegean Sea to the mountains of Afghanistan, from the deserts of Egypt to the fertile plains of Central Asia, all under one ruler, the King of Kings. A mosaic of landscapes, the Nile Delta, the Arabian deserts, the Caucasus Mountains, the Eurasian steppes. Managing this diversity was a major challenge. How to govern people who speak different languages, worship different gods, and live entirely different lives? So the Persians became administrators, diplomats, and innovators. The population included Greeks, Egyptians, Babylonians, Jews, Lydians, Indians, and many more, each with its own histories and traditions. Rather than forcing one culture, the Persians embraced diversity. A globalized world centuries early. Wealth flowed into Susa and Persepolis. The Persian Empire was rich, powerful, and unprecedented. Every great story needs a hero, and for the Persian Empire that hero is Cyrus the Great. He wasn't just a conqueror, he was a revolutionary. Around 559 BC, Cyrus inherited the throne of a small kingdom called Anshan, a vassal state of the Median Empire. But Cyrus had grander ambitions. Through political maneuvers and military campaigns, he united the Persian peoples and the Median peoples. He set his sights on the world. He conquered Lydia in modern-day Turkey. Then he conquered the Neo-Babylonian Empire. In just a few decades, he forged the largest empire the world had yet seen. What made Cyrus truly remarkable, however, was not what he conquered, but how he conquered. When his army entered the legendary city of Babylon in 539 BC, there was no mass slaughter or destruction, which was the common practice of the time. Instead, Cyrus presented himself as a liberator. He famously declared that the inhabitants could continue to worship their own gods, and that exiled peoples, including the Jews who had been held captive in Babylon for decades, were free to return to their homelands. This policy is immortalized on a small clay artifact known as the Cyrus Cylinder. Many scholars view this document as a foundational text in the history of human rights. Cyrus's legacy is immense. He was a man who was centuries ahead of his time, a visionary who proved that a great empire could be built on a foundation of humanity and respect. If Cyrus was the visionary founder of the Persian Empire, then Darius I, also known as Darius the Great, was its master organizer. Darius came to the throne in 522 BC after a period of civil war and instability following the death of Cyrus's son. His first task was to restore order and reassert control over the vast empire. But Darius did more than just put out fires. He fundamentally reshaped the administrative structure of the empire, creating a system so efficient and robust that it would last for the next 2 centuries. He was the CEO who turned Cyrus's grand vision into a functioning, day-to-day reality. Darius's most significant reform was the division of the empire into provinces, or satrapies. He established around 20 of these satrapies, each governed by a satrap, or governor. These satraps were responsible for collecting taxes, administering justice, raising troops for the royal army. To prevent any single satrap from becoming too powerful and rebelling, Darius created a brilliant system of checks and balances. Each satrapy also had a military commander and a chief financial officer who reported directly back to the king, not to the satrap. It was a clever way to divide power and ensure loyalty to the central government. To further ensure his control, Darius appointed special officials known as the King's Eyes and Ears. These were royal inspectors who traveled throughout the empire, unannounced, to check on the satraps and local officials. They acted as a kind of imperial intelligence service, reporting on everything from tax collection to public sentiment. He commissioned the carving of the monumental Behistun inscription, a massive rock relief. He took the empire Cyrus had built and gave it the structure and stability it needed to thrive. An empire as vast as Persia needed more than just clever administrators, it needed infrastructure. Darius the Great understood this perfectly. One of his most enduring achievements was the construction and improvement of the Royal Road, the highway backbone of the empire. This superhighway stretched 1,700 miles, about 2,700 kilometers from Susa to Sardis. It was the empire's circulatory system, carrying messages, carrying troops, carrying trade. Not just a dirt track, a marvel of engineering and logistics. Surface well-maintained, punctuated by 111 posting stations spaced every 15 to 20 miles. Stations like ancient service plazas with fresh horses, food and lodging. Royal couriers and officials could cover vast distances with incredible speed. Normal traveler, 3 months on foot. Royal messenger, 7 to 9 days. Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers. This famous line, often associated with modern postal services, was originally a tribute to the Persian Royal Road. The Royal Road, physical manifestation of the Persian vision, connected, unified, and prosperous world. The system that operated on the Royal Road, known as the Angarium, was the world's first true postal service. It was a relay system of mounted couriers, and honestly, it was the secret to the empire's incredible communication network. The concept was simple but totally revolutionary. A messenger would ride at top speed from one posting station to the next. Upon arrival, a fresh horse would be waiting and a fresh rider would be waiting, ready to take the message and gallop to the subsequent station. This relay continued day and night without interruption until the message reached its final destination, hundreds or even thousands of miles away. It was the ancient world's equivalent of the internet. These royal messengers were the elite of the empire's communication corps. They had to be expert horsemen capable of enduring grueling conditions and long hours. The system was meticulously organized and funded by the state, ensuring reliability. This network gave the Persian king a massive strategic advantage. He could issue commands to his generals, receive intelligence from his spies, and manage the administration of his satrapies with unmatched speed. If a rebellion broke out in Egypt, for example, the king in Susa could learn about it within a week or two, and dispatch armies long before it gained momentum. The Angarium was the invisible web that held the Persian Empire together, a testament to the organizational genius of Darius and the logistical prowess of the Persian state. The Persians were not just brilliant administrators, they were also master builders and engineers. Their ambition was physically inscribed onto the landscape: magnificent cities, grand palaces, ingenious infrastructure. The most famous example is Persepolis. Its construction was a feat of engineering on a colossal scale. It was built on a massive stone terrace, partly carved from a mountainside, partly built up from the plain. Builders used pulleys and levers to lift enormous blocks, some weighing many tons and placed with incredible precision. The architecture fused many styles. The columns show influences from Egypt and from Greece, yet the design remained distinctly Persian. The double-headed capital is remarkable. Carved as bulls, carved as lions, or carved as griffins, supporting massive cedarwood roof beams. Palaces like the Apadana and the Hall of 100 Columns were vast audience halls to inspire awe. Beyond palaces, Persians mastered water management. They perfected qanats, underground aqueducts. Gently sloping tunnels dug by hand over many miles, tapped groundwater and channeled it to fields and settlements. This created lush oases and productive farmland. The qanat system was a lifeline, many still operate today. Persians also made some of the world's first formal gardens. The Paradisa, a walled paradise garden, geometric layouts, flowing water channels, and fruit trees with fragrant flowers. Gardens symbolized order and abundance. From Persepolis to their gardens, Persian engineering expressed their worldview. One of the most shocking and honestly revolutionary facts about the Persian Empire was its official policy of cultural and religious tolerance. This was a radical departure from the practices of earlier empires like the Assyrians, Babylonians. The Persians, starting with Cyrus the Great, realized that a more sustainable model was one of coexistence. They allowed their subjects to keep their own customs, speak their own languages, and most importantly, worship their own gods. This wasn't just a passive acceptance, it was an active policy of state. In Egypt, Persian kings like Darius took on the traditional titles of the pharaohs and made offerings to Egyptian gods. They funded the restoration of Egyptian temples that had fallen into disrepair. In Babylon, they respected the ancient cult of Marduk. Cyrus famously allowed the Jews to return to Jerusalem and provided funds for the rebuilding of their temple. This policy fostered loyalty and stability. People were less likely to rebel against a distant ruler who respected their identity and way of life. It was pragmatic, but it was also profoundly humane. This tolerance created a vibrant cosmopolitan society. Babylon, Susa, Persepolis. Walk down the street in one of these cities and you would hear a dozen different languages. You would see people dressed in a variety of traditional clothing. The art and architecture of the period reflect this fusion. Craftsmen from across the empire were brought to work on the great royal projects. This resulted in a unique imperial art style that was a synthesis of Greek, Egyptian, Median, Babylonian influences yet was distinctly Persian. While the Persians were tolerant of other religions, the kings themselves likely followed the teachings of a prophet named Zoroaster. Ahura Mazda. The idea of a single, all-powerful God, a cosmic struggle between good and evil, and the concepts of heaven, hell, and a final judgment. The Persian kings saw themselves as the chosen representatives of Ahura Mazda on earth, tasked with upholding truth and order, or Asha against chaos and lies, or Druj. This belief system provided the moral and philosophical underpinning for their just and tolerant rule. The Achaemenid Persian Empire came to an end in the 330s BC. It was conquered by Alexander the Great. But that fall didn't end Persia's influence. The legacy of Persia is all around us, woven into the fabric of the modern world. Alexander was so impressed he adopted Persian customs, Persian court etiquette, the administrative satrapy system. He saw the value in the Persian model for ruling a multicultural empire, and he tried to fuse Greek and Persian cultures together. Persian ideas profoundly impacted Western and world history. A centralized bureaucratic empire, a sophisticated communication network. That model became a blueprint for later empires. The Romans, the Byzantines. Concepts like a universal currency, standardized weights and measures, and a professional civil service. Even the idea of paradise, a beautiful enclosed garden, comes from the Persian paradisa. The world we live in was shaped by these ancient innovators. Persia's greatest legacy is its contribution to human rights and religious tolerance. The Cyrus cylinder stands as a powerful symbol of enlightened governance. The tomb of Cyrus the Great at Pasargadae, a simple, powerful monument to Persia's founder. Persia showed it's possible to rule diverse peoples with respect and humanity. That idea, coexistence within one polity, is as relevant today as 2,500 years ago. Remember the Persians next time you hear ancient tales. They weren't just the villains of the Greco-Persian wars. They built the world's first true superpower. Not only on military might, but on brilliant organization, engineering marvels, and a revolutionary philosophy of tolerance. They connected East and West. They fostered a vibrant exchange of ideas. They set a new standard for what it meant to rule. The ghost of their magnificent empire still haunts our world, a testament to their power and influence.